Hi, and welcome to What's Next with Emma Arnold. I'm your host, Emma Arnold. And this week, we have a really great podcast with a really great comedian and friend of mine. I met her in Seattle at Bumbershoot for the first time about a year and a half ago. Although she'd been on my radar for a long time and I'd heard good things about her. She is super funny and an amazing guest. We have such a good talk. She makes me laugh so much. And I think you're going to really like her. She's one of those people who everybody loves. Everybody loves her. Have you ever seen on Instagram somebody who on their birthday, like a ton of people, like they share all these stories of people who are like wishing them a happy birthday publicly, you know? I'm saying, have you ever seen? Because I am not one of those people. Maybe you are. Maybe you're a very popular person who has like 45 people who wish you publicly a happy birthday and you're just sharing stories all day and it's exhausting. But I am not one of those people, partly maybe because I don't tell people when it's my birthday, not because of like an age thing, just because I don't really like to celebrate my birthday very much, which I've kind of figured out this last year, which is probably why I don't tell people that. Yeah, so she has like a million friends and everybody loves her and she's so funny and she's so cool. And we became friends after this festival and man, she's just such a delight. And I just think she's super great. You're going to really love her. Just checking in. How are we doing over here? We're good. Yesterday was Mother's Day and just like my birthday, I have pretty mixed feelings on Mother's Day. Yesterday was a really good one. I do not like Mother's Day. It always stresses me out. I've always hated it. But yesterday was a good one. Yesterday, Alex made waffles and my stepson came over too. And we had waffles together and the boys were super sweet and cute. And there was homemade blueberry syrup. And then we sat around a fire out back and talked and visited for a really long time. And then the kids went to go get donuts and then came back and it was lovely. Alex got me a blueberry plant to plant in the garden. My mom got me a boysenberry. We went and hung out with the old people at my mom's house for a bit. Extremely socially distanced. My mom is not fucking around when it comes to COVID, which of course I'm grateful for because it means both my parents are still here because my mom has been very, very COVID nervous. But even though everybody's vaccinated, my mom is still not having it. She is still being super careful. I had to pee outside. We were distanced about 40 feet apart, yelling Happy Mother's Day across the yard at each other. But, if that's what keeps her feeling safe, that's fine with me. We did some bird watching together. That was my mother's. I got her a plant, but also my Mother's Day gift to her and my aunties was to pretend to care about bird watching. My family's very into bird watching. I am not interested. I want to be. It's weird because I'm so into biology of every different kind. If you know me, I'm really into bugs. I love reptiles. I'm very interested. I'm just interested in everything, especially interested in fungi, lichens. I love a good moss. Very interested in all that. I know the name of tons of plants and tons of trees and lots of information about that stuff. I thought I wanted to be a biologist, probably an entomologist as a kid. I had always kind of planned to do that and became a comedian instead. Very closely related fields. But birds, I don't know, you guys. I don't know. Birds just has never... I've tried really hard to get into birds because like my family, they go on these birding trips and it's like a really good way to bond with everybody. And I just don't. I think birds are kind of boring. The bird watching itself is really boring to me. There's just a lot of like, oh, look, there it is. My family also they all have like bird boxes in their yard. So like duck boxes and owl boxes and falcon boxes. That's not kestrels. That's what they do. And so I get like today I got like 15 bird updates from my mom and my aunt. They send videos and pictures and every day like update me on what the kestrels are doing. Oh, they've laid 3 eggs and oh, she's moving around. She's went and got a worm and then the dad came back and he took the worm and fed it to one of the babies and oh, okay. And I get tons of updates. They reminded me that a couple years ago we had, this was the biggest thing that's ever happened in my family. It gets talked about all the time. It got brought up yesterday. One time in one of my aunt's owl boxes, she had a barn owl in there and a duck got in and also laid an egg and then left. So the mother owl had 4 eggs, 3 owl, 1 duck. And when the eggs hatched, the little owls just like, they're very tiny and they just sit under the mom and they like wait to grow up to get big enough to fly out of the nest. But ducks, as soon as they hatch, they hop out of the nest and go into the water. And so the duck just kept jumping and jumping and jumping, trying to get out of the nest, And the mother owl she didn't realize it wasn't an owl. She didn't try to eat it or anything. She kept thinking it was one of her babies, and she kept trying to like stuff it underneath her with the other babies. And it was quite a bit bigger than the baby owls, who were just like looking at their, adopted sibling in horror, like, oh, what's happening? And the duck kept like jumping all over them and trying to jump out the hole. And the mom owl kept like squishing it down and sitting on it. And finally, and this is the part I'm not supposed to tell you, finally, because my mom is so concerned. We have video of this whole thing. Anyway, so finally, my stepdad got up on a ladder and grabbed the duck out of the box, and we took it to a rescue place that helps hurt birds or abandoned birds. And they took care of it and released it into the wild. But he grabbed it and rescued the baby duck. And we have video of this. And at the time, I had wanted to post the video because it's actually a very cute, very funny video. And my mom was like, "Oh my gosh, no! Don't post that video. We could get in trouble with the bird feds. We could go to jail." So I'm not even supposed to be telling this story. This is a private family story that I'm sharing with you, that my stepdad reached into a barn owl nest and rescued a duck because we could get in trouble with the bird cops. My mom was very, very worried, even yesterday when we told the story. And she was like, "Now don't remember that." And I was like, "Oh, I know I'm not supposed to, like, we got to be careful of the bird cops. I know, but I'm telling it anyway because I'm a bad daughter." But so yeah, I went and pretended to care about birds for a few hours. We looked at some kestrels. I listened to a lot of stories about the owls. It was lovely. It was really nice to see everybody. The women in my family are just sweet angels. We had a funny moment. One of my aunts is actually kind of angry with me because the women in my family, well, not the women, everybody in my family, except for me, are hoarders. Not like messy newspapers everywhere hoarders, like highly organized Swedish hoarders, where like, yes, they have a lot of stuff, but it's like very well organized and it has its place. And like, like my grandmother collected tiny shoes, and she had like 1,000 tiny porcelain shoes, but they were in like a very nice curio cabinet. Did she also collect a million other things in tiny curio cabinets? Yes, absolutely. That my mom, and she died 10 years ago. My mom and aunt still sorting through all the tiny things that she collected. But so everybody in my family hoards. I grew up with hoarders. My mom is a hoarder. I'm always like super careful. I go through my house like every 3 months and like throw everything away because I'm so afraid of becoming like a collector. And which is funny because like actually I have kind of a stack right now going. I've been saving bags, you guys. I've been saving because like it used to be that pre-COVID I always brought my bags, your cloth bags, to the grocery store. But we've been doing grocery pickup at Fred Meyer, and they just give you plastic bags, and every time they use way too many bags, they like individually bag like every single thing. And in the waste, like the first couple of times we went, I was like, I can't throw away these bags. So I just started saving them because I thought, well, eventually you can make these wonderful little woven beds for camping or for the homeless or whatever. I was like, I'll make beds out of these. But of course I haven't had time to do that. So instead I just have like 7,000 bags in my basement, very well organized in nice little stacks. But so it's starting, you guys, is what I'm saying. It's starting for me. But my aunt, what her thing has been, so I knew this, but I hadn't been brought up in a while, and they were telling Alex about it. And so my aunt, about 10 years ago, started collecting. She and my mom help people quit smoking, and they have this lovely, amazing program with a DVD and like a workbook. And it took them like a year to put together this DVD and this workbook and to put it together this amazing program. She's really good. My aunt is amazing. She's helped thousands of people quit smoking. She has a really high success rate. It's all science-based. Like she just knows everything about like addiction and how to, like, she should be on Oprah is my point. She's incredible. But they had this funny idea at the time that like, what if in the making of this DVD, what if I saved because they were like so stressed out that they were like getting Starbucks every day. And like, they were like, what if we started saving these Starbucks cups and eventually we'll make this like funny viral video that like maybe we can give to Starbucks, and maybe Starbucks will be like, haha, that's funny. And we want to like, put our employees through your program or whatever. Cause she does a lot of big corporate names and stuff. Like she works with Simplot and a few other people. So, so she has been for 10 years. I think what happened was like, once you, like with the bags, I get it, because like once you start collecting something, it can be kind of hard to stop collecting that thing. And it's hard to throw it away because you already have so many. So they never made this viral video. There had been a plan like that they would make this video of like, her like opening the car door and all these like these Starbucks cups that she's been saving. So she saves the cup and the lid and the straws if she gets an ice drink. And she's been stacking and saving these for 10 years. And like, if anybody's over there with a Starbucks cup, if you come over to her house, she'll be like, oh, I'll take that for the collection. So she's been saving them for a decade. And now it's like, I mean, it's gotten to a point. Yeah. Like how she probably has like 7,000 cups. I don't even know, like 10,000, because she gets them from other people and stuff, and people know she collects them, so they bring them to her. And she's wants to make like a video of like, her in a giant hole, and they like use a dump truck to like dump the cups on her, and or like something like that. And she was telling us this, and she was like, I'm just thinking like maybe it'll be like a really good like viral thing. Like maybe Starbucks will be like, oh yeah, we want to start selling your DVD at the counter. And I was like, so your plan to go viral is to have a company that sells an addictive substance, to have them like promote your anti-addiction program? And you could just feel all the joy go out of Mother's Day. Everybody was like, why would you do this? Hasn't she been through enough this last year? Like, I just felt like, and she was like, oh, I hadn't really thought of that. And I was like, well, it sounds like maybe it's time to throw away the cups, but it's not time to throw away the cups. And I should have minded my own business. I have my own bags to think about. She was very offended that I brought up throwing away the cups, which I get, because like you hit a point where you're like, I have 10,000 of these. What am I just going to throw them away? What a waste. Even though I, at this point, feel like she should make a video just showing like how much Starbucks waste, a family of 2 people can accumulate over a decade, because it's so much plastic bullshit. It's insane. So that's what we did yesterday. It was a nice little day. Yesterday was so cute because I have so many friends, especially comedian friends, who just had babies, brand new babies. And I had a lot of friends, celebrating their very first Mother's Day yesterday. And I just thought that was so sweet. And I wish happy Mother's Day to a bunch of them, because I know that first one, you're so overwhelmed and you're not sleeping, and being a new mom is so sweet. I mean, I did it so young. I'm sure it's maybe a very different experience when you're 38, but I did it, very young. But I still remember like just I was also really experienced with kids, had raised my brothers and had, worked in daycares and been a nanny, and had worked at summer camps and stuff. So I had a lot of experience with kids. And helped raise my nephew as a baby. But even still, like when it's your own and you're like, oh, fuck, I really got to get this right. I really want to make sure I'm doing a good job. I remember like when Calvin was born, I was so, so careful about everything. Like at the time, the big thing was Baby Einstein. They had those Baby Einstein videos, and it was basically marketed like, man, if you don't play these for your baby an hour a day, they will grow up to be a complete idiot. Like they will not be able to function in society, and it's going to be your fault that they're never going to be able to drive. And there was so much pressure put on you as a mom to like play these videos, which now I'm thinking about, like now years later, I think about it and I'm like, what a weird like facet of capitalism at the time, where it was like, if you don't start your baby out right now learning Spanish and French and Chinese so that they get the core, because I had Baby Einstein music, Baby Einstein languages, like there were multiple DVDs you were supposed to be playing for your kid to make sure that they were smart enough to do what? To make it in society, to like get a good job, to get a good degree. Now it's funny to be like, why are you prepping your baby from day one to be like a good little capitalist soldier, to make money and to like succeed in life. It seems very strange now. And I feel like new moms now would be like, what a weird thing to do. And also the big thing when Calvin was, my kids were little, was like attachment parenting. Like if you used a stroller, you were an absolute monster. Your kid would come out completely like a sociopath and be a serial killer. You had to play these videos and you had to do all this like, co-sleeping, which we did actually. And I really liked co-sleeping, but, and a lot of it, is kind of decolonizing parenting, like, letting the baby eat when they're hungry, let them fall asleep when they're sleepy, like not like having a regulated, totally like, oh, the baby has to sleep 2 hours and then you wake them up. And there's, but then now a lot of my friends are worried about skin to skin. This is the new thing, skin to skin bonding time. You have to have this much skin to skin bonding time with dad, this much with mom, this much during latch time, like when they're breastfeeding, this much without latch. They have to have clothes bonding time and naked bonding time, all these things. Like your baby will bond with you because they will die if they don't. That's all of our evolution makes it so that like they have big dumb eyes that look at you and make you go, oh, I guess I won't leave this thing by a river. Like your baby's gonna bond with you. You're gonna be fine. But I just think it's so cute because I was like that with Calvin. And like, Calvin didn't have sugar till he was like 4, probably 6, if I'm being honest. And he didn't have a soda. I was so careful about being a good mom. And then by the time Arthur came along, I really was just like, I remember like leaving him on a blanket in the yard while they like was like puttering around and doing things, like went inside and came back out. And, you're just like, man, if a hawk takes him, he's fine. It's just, and he's fine. You sort of realize that like kids are pretty indestructible and are meant to have a certain amount of like alone time actually. And that you don't always have to be holding them and touching them, and that you'll bond with them pretty naturally and easily if you just sort of let it happen and stop giving yourself a bunch of anxiety. So for Mother's Day, I want to pass along, sometimes people ask me for parenting advice, and I mean, it's funny, you'd think I'd have more of it, but I think it's like, man, you just got to figure out who you are and who your kids are. Try to keep your cool with them, be patient, be more patient than your own parents were. That's my biggest piece of advice to you. There are very few people who shouldn't try to strive to be a better parent than their own parent. If you had a perfect parents, congratulations. You probably won't struggle to parent very much. The rest of us, I think, like I definitely had to be like, oh, wow, there's my father's temper. I need to curb that and like be super careful. Maybe my mother's temper, certainly never close to my father's. But my parenting secret for you, my Mother's Day present for you is that this has worked so well for me over the years. And I don't know if I don't think it's gendered. I don't know. I don't have girls, so I can't tell you. Maybe it applies perfectly. Maybe you'll be like, no, I can't do that with my daughter. But something I noticed with my boys always, and even when I was a camp counselor and, worked with like disabled kids and stuff like that and kids with autism. And I've always noticed this specifically because I mostly worked with boys, but I think it's a little bit true of grown men too, but I don't know. I think that you have to always, with my kids, I always kind of let them think that they were rebelling against me. Like if you allow little rebellions, you don't, I think, get as many gigantic ones, as many big ones. Like for example, a good example I think is Henry around like 7th grade decided he wanted to be a knife guy. He got really into knives, and I pretended to find that so shocking. And I was always like, oh gosh, oh my goodness. Like I think boys always kind of want to impress and shock you as a mom. That's why they're always jumping off of something at the pool. I mean, do you know how many times I've heard the phrase, Mom, watch this. Mom, watch this. And I think like boys are always kind of trying to do something dumb that they know is dumb to impress you. And maybe girls too, again, maybe this is just kids. But my boys were always trying to do something that they were like, my mom's not going to like this,? And so I think if you kind of just play into that a little bit. So like when Henry, he wanted a butterfly knife, and I was like, oh, it's so dangerous. I'm so worried. I don't want you to be a knife guy. So I got him a butterfly knife, but I was like, I hate this. Ugh. And then he would play with it, and I would always be like, ugh, this knife thing. And then that's kind of it for rebelling from him. Like he really hasn't done a ton more because he thinks, your kids love to push back. They love to, they have to, it kind of, I think as my kids get older, I see like, it's so hard for them. It's so hard for people to, because you're part of a family, and in that you're always sort of fighting for your individuality. Maybe not. Maybe if you have a perfect family, again, you're not like enmeshed or, codependent or anything, and everything is just perfect and you're always just perfectly comfortable being yourself. But I know in my own family growing up, I always kind of felt like I had to like, always sort of plant my flag and be like, this is who I am. And then I would see my kids doing that in their own small ways too, being like, I'm a knife guy, I do parkour, like doing these things that they kind of wanted to impress me and be a little dangerous with. And by being like, oh my goodness, like I think that they always kind of love that energy from me. So I always try to be a little bit shocked, and always try to be a little, tonight, Calvin went to hang out with some friends, and when they went to leave, I was like, hey, you boys be good, make good choices, have fun out there. And they were like, we will, we're not going to smoke any weed. And I was like, oh my goodness, and I don't know, maybe they're going to smoke weed, maybe they aren't. I really don't care, to be honest. He's almost 18. If he wants to smoke weed with his friends, I'd say that's his life choice at this point. But I still think acting a little like, well, is sort of expected, and also, kind of what has kept my kids from being truly rebellious, as they always thought they were. My kids think that they are wild men. They think that they are shocking wild men, and they have no idea what fucking narcs they are. They just have no idea. Nobody tell them. Please let them think that they are the wildest thing in two boots, because I have let them think that, and they have never done anything really terrible because of that, I think. So that's a good little thing. A friend of mine came over today. Very sweet. Comedian friend of mine came over for a little visit. She's such a doll, and she grew up without a mom, and I just adore her. She's super funny and super kind and loving, and I always feel like, I just always feel like she has done such a great job of mothering herself. And I think so many people have. And if you're one of those people who mothered themselves, like, I hope you bought yourself something, a little plant or something for Mother's Day, because that's not a small thing. I always do something nice for myself on Father's Day, and for my stepdad, because I feel like, I've been a great father to my kids in a lot of ways, and been a great mom too. And I always celebrate both. And I was a good dad to myself through a lot of my childhood, and a good mom too. So I think you should celebrate the ways that you parented yourself when you were young, and that you parent yourself now. I think always sort of, give yourself a nod for doing that. But she was telling me that I'm not on Facebook anymore, so I miss out on a lot of the local comedy drama. And she was telling me that recently there was some, I didn't really get all the details, but that there was some big argument in the Boise Comedy Facebook page or on somebody's page or something. And they were all going back and forth. And this guy who was being really sexist, some women in the scene were calling him out. And from the sound of it, has been very terrible and very sexist. I don't know who this person is. I'd never heard of their name. Apparently they've been around for a long time. And I was like, oh, I have no idea who that is. But he apparently he said to one of the women that she had only found any success because she was on the humping EA pipeline to success. And everybody was kind of like, the what? And apparently that's the humping Emma Arnold pipeline. And apparently that is his person. It's not even a rumor, because I can't imagine anybody else would give that any credence, because it's so ridiculous and hilarious. But apparently his opinion is that all these young women in comedy have gotten ahead because they are humping Emma Arnold, and I'm just throwing success at people because of that, specifically young female comics, which is wild because, number one, I've never fucked anybody in Boise comedy, and never ever would. I barely have had... I've had sex with a handful of comedians, a very small handful, and have mostly kept the details of that very private, because it's a small industry. And but also they were always people who were at my level, We're peers. We're good friends. Never have had sex with somebody who had just started comedy. Never would. That's predatory. That's gross. And also like it goes against everything I stand for 100%. Like the idea that I'm like, having sex with the young lady comics is sort of just assuming, I don't know, in a way I'm almost sort of flattered because I feel like that's like one time I was on the road with a wonderful woman comic friend of mine, and our show got canceled, and so we were like, fuck it, let's just go to a hot spring and get a room for the night and just like have a good time and party. And her boyfriend like had a meltdown and accused me of trying to steal his girlfriend away from him and trying to seduce her. And I was like, I love that narrative. Like, honestly, I love the narrative that like, I'm just like out here seducing people's wives, that I'm dangerous, that you should hide your wives, hide your girlfriends, hide your wives. I love that. I love that narrative. Let's get that going. Let's get the rumor going that I'm just out here seducing beautiful women comics left and right. That's great. Although I definitely would never engage in that in any sort of a power dynamic way. That is not who I am, not what I'm about. But I also just think that it's very funny that there's an idea that there's a humping Emma Arnold pipeline to success, because I'm not even that successful. Like, what am I gonna get you? I think that's a funny thing with comedy is like, when you're a comic at my level or higher, you always have young comics who are kind of like really excited to like get to work with you, and some of them are excited just because like they love your comedy or they're fans or they're like want to like ask you questions or stuff, and that's amazing. But occasionally you'll get somebody who's really like, they're sure you're gonna like launch their career and like you're gonna be able to do like some big thing for them, and I'm like, I'm on Medicaid, like I don't know what you think you're gonna get from me. So I can't imagine any of the women in our scene would be dumb enough to think that fucking me would get them anything other than, I don't know, a showcase, maybe, which I don't even book anything anymore. So why are you bothering to fuck me? Anyway, I just found that sort of flattering that I guess that's the point of success you reach, where people assume that, it's funny too, because I'm like, what a male thing to assume that, I've worked so hard in this town to build festivals and build shows and like raise the level of Boise comedy and create a very inclusive, safe atmosphere for the women who are here and for the women and like non-white people who tour through here, and through queer and transgendered people and non-binary people to come through. Like, I try, and to work here, have tried so hard for so many years to create like an inclusive, diverse, like amazingly welcoming atmosphere, and it's so funny to me that like that is what I have worked for so many years. That was the end goal, was to like make it safe for women and queer people and non-white people to come to Boise, Idaho and do comedy, or live here and do comedy. And it's so funny to me that some dude is like, oh, probably her end goal is fucking the young comics, because that is why dudes get into comedy, is to get laid. I didn't get into comedy for that. I got into it for a paycheck and to have a really great time and tour, and to make it safer for other women. So I guess that's not why I got into it, because I didn't know it was unsafe, but that's why I stayed in it. So just wild behavior to me, the humping Emma Arnold pipeline. I feel like that's just fabulous. It's just a fantastic thing. I'm working on a new hour right now. I'm writing it out, and I'm just going to steal Maria Bamford's idea and start doing, doing little 10 at a time people, like 10 people at a time, little practice sessions, like mini shows, mini open mics, because I just haven't been able to bring myself back to the idea of doing Boise comedy again. I just don't know if I have it in me quite yet. Our club closed. The scene is kind of a wreck. I just don't know. If I have it in me to do comedy here yet. So if you're in Boise and you're like, yeah, you can test out your jokes on me, like a weird little guinea pig, that would be dope. If you're not in Boise, maybe I'll do a Zoom thing with you and just see how that goes. It seems to work for Maria, and she's the best comic working. So I'm gonna start getting this hour together so that I can tape another special. So hopefully soon. So anyway, so I hope everything's going well for you. things are ramping up here. He's in the 12 to 15 group. So my youngest here probably going to get a shot in the next couple weeks. And after that, I don't want to announce this officially, but it's looking like I'm going to do some dates in Portland at the end of June. I'm considering kind of starting to book out some drivable stuff for the summer since everybody in the household will be vaccinated, which is very exciting. I'm kind of easing in slow. I'm just nervous about everything and, also socially awkward and not entirely sure I'm going to be able to be funny or be a person even quite yet. So I am easing back into it. But when I think about my reasons for getting back into comedy, when I think about like the things I am excited about it, the guest for today's show is a part of that because she is someone that I'm so excited to see. I'm so excited to hug, and I'm so excited to see her do comedy. Like she's been crushing it this entire time. She did Zoom shows through the whole thing. And then when San Francisco comedy opened back up, she has been just like working every night, working constantly. She's going to be the funniest person in comedy. And it's really rude, honestly, how funny she's going to be at the end of this. Cause I just feel like she's such a beast. So I hope you enjoy today. Today's guest is Irene Tu. Her Twitter and her Instagram are Irene_Tu. Please follow her on everything. She's so funny. Today she tweeted, and I saw on Instagram, she said, I want whatever kind of functional depression Taylor Swift has. And I was like, bitch, you have it. Look at you. I think you have 6 shows this week. Like, I was excited today because I mowed part of the lawn, like you have the functional depression. Congratulations. So find her, give her some love. I don't think she has an album yet. No, she doesn't, but she's gonna soon. So find her and give her your money, give her everything. She's wonderful. I hope you enjoy Irene too. Love you.
Hi, Emma. Thanks for having me. Good to see you. Oh my God. Yes. The last time I saw you was like a year and a half ago.
Almost exactly. It's funny. I was thinking about, I feel like we have one of my most favorite comedian meeting comedian cute meets.
Meet cutes?
Meet cute. Is that what they are?
That's
meet
what
cutes.
they're called.
Oh, I'm such a mom. Honey, how'd your meet cute go? Your cute meet.
You said it right that time.
Oh, dang. Okay. Well, I feel like we have a cute meet. No, it's a meet cute.
Meet cute. I know. Your version actually makes more sense, honestly.
Yeah, it's a cute meet. Yeah. I just think but it also kind of sounds, I don't know, vaguely sausagey. I don't know, for some reason, just kind of like, ugh.
Sausage.
But we met at Bumbershoot.
We did. I also forgot that that's what the festival was called. I was like, what was that festival that we did? And
it literally just came to me all day. I've been trying to remember the name of it and trying to remember where it was because I like have this vague impression of it. It was such a weird weekend for me. And then finally I was like, it was Bumbershoot in Seattle. Yes, I was so proud that I finally remembered.
But it was funny. Yeah, I know. That was like, I feel like we got along really well.
Yeah, we did. And I think that might surprise some people because I feel like personality wise, like we're like a perfect Odd Couple cop movie duo because it's like an over emotional sex addict meets, like one of the first conversations we had was like, you were like, yeah, I was crying when you met me. And you were like, oh, I don't really cry a whole lot. Like that was our whole.
I don't remember this.
Oh man. So, that weekend was really wild for me. So I had started to be, about 2 weeks later, I was hospitalized. I had started to be very chronically ill about that time. And I was in a lot of pain. And also this thing that I have makes it so I don't get enough oxygen. So I'm kind of confused and loopy sometimes. And so I was going through that, but I hadn't been diagnosed yet. So I was a little bit off. But then also my estranged half brother had come to a show. And I was like, he's from my father's side. I didn't notice he was in the audience until I had gotten about halfway through a joke about how our father had molested me. And I was like, oh, my brother's there. And he does not know that stuff. So I like I like bombed and then got off stage and was just like a sobbing wreck. Also, like someone I had dated was there and things were very weird between us. There was so much going on. So when you met me, I had literally just like gotten off stage, was standing. Oh, I also had found out that when the festival organized, it's a defunct festival now, so I feel comfortable talking about this. When they asked me to do the festival, it was kind of late notice, and they were like, "Hey, I run festivals," so they kind of appealed to me like, "Hey, we don't have any money left, but would you please come do this anyway?" And I was like, "Of course, I totally get it." And then so they paid me $750. Then I found out other people there were making $4,000 who had also gotten asked late, and I was like, I am such a sucker. Like I was so the whole weekend was a disaster for me. So we met. I had literally just been like sobbing, and then I met you, and then I watched your set, and I was like, "Oh my God, so funny, so funny." And then you were like, we like started talking. We hit it off immediately. We went to a David Bowie laser show together, and it was
That's right. I totally forgot we did that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It was such a like weirdly meaningful, like, because I felt like, you know, I was like in this little ship of chaos, and then I met Irene, and you were just like, you were like this solid land, and you were like, "Let's go to this laser show." And I was like, "We're going to be friends for life. I can just feel it right now."
We weren't the only ones that went to the laser show though. Like other people went too.
I think it was just us.
Was it? Wow, clearly
we
my
were
memory is not
sober.
serving me well. That's true. We were sober.
Because we were sober, and everybody else, which is a funny thing to go to a laser show. So we were like,
I know, it sounds like we were like on acid going to this laser show, and we're just fully sober.
We just fully sober went to a laser show, and everybody else was pretty hammered. Like everybody else stayed in, and I think everybody's on ecstasy too. And we were the ones who ended up at a laser show somehow. So
I have a horrible memory, as you can tell, where you're telling parts of the story. I'm like, that did happen. I like cannot remember anything. The only thing I remember is that we were sitting and eating like lunch or dinner at like the cafeteria, and I was like, "Oh, Emma's so cool," and that's literally my memory of it. Where I was like, I remember we had a great conversation. Don't remember a single thing we talked about, but I was like, Emma's great. And that was it.
It's funny because like that weekend, maybe because it was just, the whole weekend was such a train wreck for me of just, you know, like one of those times, like as I was bombing in front of my brother who until recently was estranged, then my ex comes in and is watching me bomb. Like it was just all these layers of garbage. And then you were like the one highlight of the weekend for me. So
that's even nicer now that I know this. I didn't know the rest of this. Oh, I'm sure I did at the time, and then I've forgotten because again.
Yeah. Whoop. It's funny. I used to have a really bad memory. And I still occasionally do, but it's funny because now that I've been doing all of this therapy, it's like now I'm just like a little steel trap. It's like, and also if something bad happened, I'm gonna remember it. If we had a lovely weekend together, I'd be like, who knows? I have no idea.
I think that's why I don't remember really, because it was lovely to me the whole weekend. I was like, oh, this is great. I'm in Seattle. I'm doing a festival. Like there's music. I'm getting paid to do comedy. I'm outdoors. Like Emma's great. There was food. Like that's why I can't remember anything, because it was like not like there was nothing so great or so terrible. I just was like, oh, that was nice.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It was. I've had festivals like that I don't even remember doing. That people will be like, you know, when you were in Nebraska for blah blah blah, and I'm like, okay, sure, sounds pleasant. How was the food? But yeah. This one imprinted on me pretty hard. I also had a really weird and unique experience. So like right after, I bombed. I was crying. I went and I sat, by the fountain, and I was sitting there just like sobbing. And this tiny little old man came and sat next to me. And then he talked to me, honestly, probably my first podcast guest, because he sat and talked to me about God and the afterlife and like near-death experiences. And his name was Alex, which is my partner's name. And he was like 105. And later I was like, that was absolutely a time traveler. That was absolutely Alex from the future come back to be like, hey, I brought you some crackers out here. How you doing, champ? Because the guy, he was just like so sweet, tiny, tiny little man from New York.
This 105-year-old man was at a music festival?
Yeah, huge fan of, he says he like loves music, and he travels around to different to festivals. I think, I've always thought he must have been maybe famous or something, and I just didn't notice because he said that he was a published author and that he was very well known within, like he kind of mentioned, oh, well, you know, I'm pretty well known within like the agent circles and stuff and blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. I was like, oh, maybe he just has money. But yeah, just a tiny old man who was like my other Irene, just from the future.
That's so funny. Oh.
Yeah. But we had a good time. And after that, I became kind of, not to be a creep, obsessed with you. Like, obsessed with your comedy.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't watch...
That's very nice of you.
I don't watch a ton of comedy because of the festivals. Like, I watch some here and there, but like, I don't watch a lot of comedy specials and stuff. But anytime you put a clip up on Instagram or anything, I watch the hell out of it because you're so funny.
Oh, that's so nice. And I don't post that much.
You don't. I mean, you don't. But like, I also see you are one of the few people in this that is like hustling. Like, you are on every Zoom show in America, as far as I can tell.
I'm not.
You're on so many, though. You're doing so much.
I'm cutting back. I was doing a lot of Zoom shows, like peak pandemic. Then I got burnt out. So then I kind of took a little bit of a break. And I still do them. But they don't bring me any joy now.
I was going to ask. So did you like it in the beginning and you've fallen off? Or have you always hated it?
I never wanted to do it in the beginning, but Andrew Arolfo, my friend, great comedian. We kind of started together. He was like, "Hey, like I'm doing Zoom show. We should do our show as a Zoom show." And I was like, "Okay." And then we started doing it, and it was pretty fun because at the time I was doing no comedy. Everything was closed. We just had to stay inside. And at the beginning, it was exciting to do comedy again. It was kind of an experiment, talking to people on your screen as little square boxes. And then there was such an influx of Zoom shows. And then I felt obligated to say yes anytime someone asked me to do their Zoom show because I had nothing else to do. But it just seemed like something to do, not because I wanted to do it. And now I kind of only do one if I only really like doing my Zoom show, honestly. And then if I get paid,
Yeah. Are you writing new jokes or are you kind of just doing older material?
I'm really so now, and for a while I was in a bit of a depressive funk where I had a really hard time writing and creating. And now I think I finally every week feel like, oh, here's an idea for a new joke. Let me try it on my very low key Zoom show. So that's been fun.
Yeah, that's true. Like the few, I haven't done very many. I've done just a handful, but it was kind of like, oh, there's really it's like lower stakes even than an open mic in a way. Cause you're like,
yes,
you could just do anything here.
You really could. But I will say cause we do our Zoom show every week, every Monday, and we kind of have, I would say mostly the same people come every week. And they're like fans of ours. So I do feel like I can't just phone it in like an open mic.
Yeah.
I don't want to do
if it's your own
badly.
show. Yeah. You got to kind of like bring it, and you got to bring new jokes every week.
That's what I'm saying. Like I can't say the stuff that I said 2 weeks ago because it's like literally the same people are there.
Yeah. People have always been like, how do you write a new hour every year? I'm like, I live in a small town. And so if I headline once a year, people have seen me and I have to I have to scramble all the time. I have a monthly here, or I had a monthly here. And I would always be writing new stuff because, a lot of the same people come and I don't want to be like, you saw this last month. Yeah.
Let's watch it again.
Better. Maybe it's a little bit better because that's how this works.
I mean, I will do like the same joke if I've changed it a little bit, like I'm like, oh, let me try this new tag. But yeah, you don't want people to watch you do the same stuff every week. Then they stop coming.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I should be doing more of them, but every time I've done one, I haven't really felt rusty. And then I've been like, I think if I did one and I was like, oh, I don't remember how to do a joke and I'm nervous and I don't remember how to write, then I would be doing a bunch. But it's kind of like that muscle is just still there. So I've been like, well, why stress? When we start doing this again, I'll do it. But
I love that for you, Emma, and I completely disagree.
Oh, you think I'm really rusty?
No. I don't think you're really. I mean, I can't speak to your experience. I'm just saying for me, because I was doing a lot of Zoom shows. Mm-hmm. Then I did my first live show. I think it was like August.
Oh.
And I forgot like 3 of my jokes while I was on stage.
Oh, you're terrifying.
It was like my first like longer set in a while. And I was only doing like 8 minutes on Zoom shows, and I had to do like 20, 25. And I was like, oh, I don't remember any of these jokes I wrote 3 years ago.
Oof. How'd you feel up there? Was it fun? Did it feel good or were you just nervous?
The very first set definitely totally blanked on a joke where I said out loud, I'm like, I don't remember how the rest of this joke goes, so I'm just going to tell a different joke. Just completely blanked. I also didn't know what to do with my arms. Like I felt like I forgot how to hold a microphone and move. It was not like riding a bike. Okay. I felt very uncomfortable in my body. And then by like the fourth set, way more comfortable, you know?
Do you stand for Zoom shows or do you sit?
No, I sit mostly because also there's like tech elements to it.
Oh,
you know,
okay.
like especially on our show, I have to like let people in the room, and that's kind of hard if I'm standing.
Yeah. Though I've done one sitting. I did the other few standing, and I did one sitting, and I was like, I'm apparently not physically capable of this. Like I just
sitting and doing it.
Yeah, sitting and doing stand up. I was on my knees, and the whole time I kept like kind of bobbing, like I wanted to stand.
Why did you just sit in a chair?
I don't know, honestly, because I had thought I was going to stand, but then after the show started, I felt like it would be weird to then stand up. So I was like, I'm just going to sit. It'll be okay. And then instead I was just like on my knees, and I was like, I feel like a kindergartner. The whole time I was just like, I felt like a kid, and it took away a lot of the authority I usually feel during comedy. I just was like, I felt like a child speaking up during a Zoom class, you know,
Right. I mean, I do think it's better if you do the Zoom shows standing. I just don't, because there's too much going on. And I do feel like a little lazy when I'm just sitting trying new jokes, but it's kind of like an open mic where you're like, let me look through my notebook and see if this premise works.
Yeah. Yeah. So. And I have been released, you know, when I was coming up, all the older comedians were like, you can't bring a notebook on stage. And then the first time I saw Deborah DiGiovanni, I was like, if Deb's doing it, I'm doing it. I'm taking, because I have a bad memory, and like I forgot a joke on my special. It's in there. I told him to leave it because I got partway through a joke, and I was like, you guys, I'm going to be honest, I do not remember the end of this joke.
You left it in?
Yeah, because I was like, you know what? If you come and see me, you should be prepared for what's going to happen, which is I do struggle with memory stuff. I do sometimes, like about 25% of the time when I start into a joke, I'm like, we'll see if I remember the end of this. What a roller coaster. And I even was like, I will come back to this at the end of the special. We're going to come back to it because I'm going to remember it. Never did. Never went back to it. Never finished that joke.
You left it in? I can't believe you left it in. I would have been like, cut the whole thing out.
No, I felt like, I don't know. I feel like the mistake was sort of part of it. I don't know. It just felt funny and kind of endearing and cute. And I was like, leave it so people know that I'm a mess.
But I mean, nowadays I don't think it's like not cool to leave like a set list on a stool. Like I usually have my phone and I'll write my set list just because I just need a safety blanket, you know?
Yeah. I do too. And I get that people are like, you shouldn't need that. And I'm like, well, I do. So I like it. I like to have a set list. It makes me comfy. And when
if I do a special, I'm gonna have a teleprompter. I'm like, put the set list in the back of the crowd.
Yeah, for my special, I wrote it and I taped it to the back of a water bottle, which is what an older comedian had showed me. And
smart.
Yeah, and so that way, like if you lose your spot, you just like you take a drink of water, and it's very unobtrusive. And I do that now. I just usually like tape it. If it's a bigger show, I'll just tape it to the stool.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, or I just am like, yes, you guys have seen me before. You know, I'm a basket case half the time up here. So you get what you get. If I feel like that's what we're doing now. Very honest versions of ourselves.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, I did see when I was Googling you, and I saw your beautiful website, by the way.
I need if someone can help me with my website, I need to put more stuff on it. I made it myself, so
yeah,
I need help.
I made mine myself, and then Alex came along and fixed it for me, and it's exponentially better. So
that's what I'm saying. I'm like, this is functional, but help me out.
Yeah. Someone help Irene with her website. I saw that the San Francisco Chronicles called you an artist on the brink of fame. And I just want to let you know, I agree with that.
Still on the brink.
Brink. Yeah.
Keyword
I
brink.
I had my moment yesterday of, like my kids are never impressed with what I do. And they're always teasing me about not being famous. And then, Craig from Malcolm in the Middle follows me. And he
liked Craig.
He's like the bigger guy who works with Lois.
I think I only remember the Malcolm kid.
He's not one of the kids.
Frankie.
He's just like he's a coworker of Lois. But he follows me on Twitter and he liked one of my tweets and I sent it to the group chat and the kids were like, "What? Mom is famous." And I was like, this was the litmus test is Craig from Malcolm in the Middle follows me, and they're so into it. They were so excited for me. So we'll know when you are ready to be famous when he follows you on Twitter. We'll know when you're over the brink.
Oof. All right. Well, I got to start looking at what tweets he likes.
Get to work. Huh?
I know. My bad.
Are you excited to be famous? Do you want to be famous? Is that your drive?
You know, when I was a kid, I really did want to be famous. I'm an only child, so I need attention because I have no siblings. And now I don't think I need it as much as I thought before, where I was like, oh, if I'm famous, I'll be happy. And knock on wood, right now, I feel decent, you know? I feel content. I wouldn't say I'm happy. And I feel like there's always more to achieve. And, you know, it's all about the journey, man. I'm really zen now, all right? Since the pandemic started, now I'm just like, yo, you know what? Whatever is going to happen is going to happen, right? Like, I'll get famous when I get famous, or maybe I never will. Like, maybe I'll just be like this level of fame. I'll just always be on the brink for the rest of my life, and that'll be okay.
That's a good place to be. I honestly think, like, if you can just be like at that almost, you know, the place where people are like, oh, you're just about to hit it, then you don't deal with any of like the weird stuff that comes with being famous, and that means like you're always a fan and other comedian favorite. People are always just about to love you, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I would like to be respected enough where other comedians are like, oh, Irene is great.
Oh, you're there already, for sure. I mean, other comedians love you.
Well, you know, I want more of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where it's like, well, maybe if I walk to the store, nobody will recognize me. But then comedians are like, but Irene's great. You know? Have you heard of this one?
I think that's the way to go, is to be like David Sedaris famous, where like the people who love you will stand in line for you to sign their book for 8 hours. Yes. But nobody else knows who you are. Nobody bothers you at the grocery store.
Yeah, like I don't have to wear like a hat and a full costume to just buy orange juice.
No. Well, you said when you said I wouldn't say I'm happy, I was like, that should be the name of your special, because that is such an Irene Tu thing to say. I wouldn't say I'm happy. And it reminded me when we were at Bumbershoot. Do you remember we developed a podcast idea for you? Oh, that was Irene hate.
Yes, I forgot to make it happen. I remember we talked about this.
Because I think that's one of the things I loved immediately about you is people always give me a hard time because you know how going around Twitter, people are like, you don't have to criticize a movie. Some people can just like it. And I'm like, but what if I my joy is criticizing things. Like my joy is complaining. That's what brings me joy, is being like, this is almost right, but here's what's wrong. And we were saying how with food, you hate all food.
Again, I don't hate all food. I think there's like a correct way to make every single food, and I'm very picky.
Mm-hmm. And you said people would bring you food and to see if you would like it, and you would be like, well, it's got a lot of pepper. And I just immediately knew, I was like, we're going to be such good friends, because I'm so exactly like that, where I'm like, yeah, if you had just done a little lighter salt, this would be perfect.
Yeah, exactly. I do that to my mom all the time. She hates it, but the food has gotten so much better. Like it's really good now.
I think when you get around people, like personally, I appreciate that energy from people because I want to do something in the way you like it. So I would much rather have you be like, this has too much pepper for me. And then the next time I don't put in as much pepper, rather than have you eat something that is mediocre to you, you know, like.
Exactly.
I would rather know exactly. I think we talked about that at Bumbershoot, how that part of the reason we felt like we were hitting it off right away is immediately we both felt comfortable being like, I don't like that. I'm not doing that. I'm not having that for lunch. I'm not going there. Like we both felt very comfortable saying, no thanks. Not for me.
Yeah, I feel like life is too short. And also I'm a bad liar. So it's like, if you give me something I don't really like, I'm not going to tell you I like it.
Yeah. And then if I do like it, you know, I'm genuine. If I'm like, I'm like, if this is perfect, then you get to be like, oh, I fucking nailed it. Because it is. Because
like you earned it at that point.
Yeah.
Like you'll know, because I'll be raving about it for like a week and like, oh my God, this was the most amazing spaghetti I've ever eaten. Like every single time I would just bring it up.
And same with like movies. If I love a movie, if I'm like, this is a flawless movie, then it's a flawless movie. It's not like, well, like will get down on me for like disliking something, and I'm like, I like to do that with people. I love to like pick something apart and hear what you liked and I didn't, and I like to argue about that stuff. And I'm not trying to change anybody's mind. That's fun.
Yeah, exactly. That's like it's a fun hobby.
Yeah, it's just a fun little complaining hobby, and people should be more accepting of that, of the complaining.
I agree. I think like around certain people you can like do what we do, but then certain people take it such the wrong way that I have to gauge when I meet somebody if I have to kind of lie, or if I could just be like, hey, this is bad. Yeah,
like Ian, who was at the festival, who I was the person I had dated at Bumbershoot, who like we both hadn't seen each other since we'd broken up, and it was a little emotional between us because we're still friends and stuff, so it was just kind of hard to see each other. But one thing I realized very early on when we were dating that we did not have in common is if I don't like a movie, I'm talking through that movie is what's going to happen, and you're going to know exactly in every scene, especially if it's sexist or racist or homophobic in any way. Like I do not sit quietly through those parts. And we were watching A Very Serious Man. I don't know. Have you seen that film?
I have not seen it, but I think I know the movie is very serious.
It's very serious. And it's, and I don't know. I don't have a lot of room in my life for movies about straight white men. Like, I don't care about your struggle. I don't care what's going on with you. I don't care about your narrative. So we were watching it, and through the whole thing, I was like, who cares? And he was getting so annoyed. And I was like, this isn't going to work out. You have to love... If you're going to love me, you got to love the fact that I'm going to talk through this movie the whole time.
It's like if you wanted me to sit quiet through the movie, you should have just watched it by yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Or pick something you knew I would like. Because if a movie is good, I'm like, everybody shut up.
That's true. You're like, you got to watch the scene. Hang on.
Yeah, everybody listen to this. Yeah, I'll be like obsessed with it. So, yeah. Are you ready? Do you want to do these questions? Are you ready for some serious?
I'm ready.
Some serious stuff.
I mean,
all right.
serious.
The first question, serious, yes. The first question I kind of prompted you for, like I usually do, people. So tell me about the closest you've ever come to dying. Any near-death experiences you've had?
I got into a car accident at the end of 2019. Someone ran a red light, T-boned my car on the driver's side. I was driving, and I almost died.
You did? That's so recent.
Yes, I know.
Oh my God.
Still recovering a little bit. Yeah.
Wow.
I got really lucky. Yeah.
So tell us what happened.
So it was right after I did a comedy show, and I think I had asked my friend to tape my set, and then someone else was supposed to tape the show. Long story short, I never got this tape later, and I'd been like struggling getting tapes. For some reason, this keeps happening to me. It's been years. Whenever I ask somebody to like tape my set or already record something, there will be some technical glitch. It's very frustrating. Usually I'm like, it's fine. But for some reason this time, it like was the straw that broke the camel's back. I was like so mad. I'm like, why does this keep happening to me? And so I kind of left the show a little angry, and you never want to leave anything angry. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to go drive to the bar like my home bar basically, and just go hang out for like 30 minutes and then go home. So I was on my way to driving to this bar that I always go to. It was like 5 minutes away from where I was. And I guess I pulled up to this traffic light. It was red. I stopped. Then it turns green. So I start to go. And then out of nowhere, a car is going like 70 miles an hour or something, just like slams into my car. And like before it hit me, I was like, what is that really loud noise? Like I just heard something super loud. And then I turned left, and I just saw a car just like speeding down. And I was like, I'm confused because I'm like, well, my light's green. I'm supposed to be going. Why is there a car coming all of a sudden like so fast? It wasn't there before. And then so I start braking, of course. And I still don't think I'm about to die or like get hit, because I'm like, I mean, there's no way. Come on. Like, they obviously see me. I brake, and then it just like hit so hard. Like my whole body just went to the right. The loudest like pop in my left ear, and the airbags go off. And then I'm like, oh my God, I just like got hit. And then I'm like, I got to get out of my car, because in my mind, I'm like, the car's going to explode. I don't know why I like thought the car was going to explode. That's just like how I imagine when you get hit. Like the thing just goes on. I was like, I got to get out. So I get out. I can't hear really. And then I'm just like stumbling around, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm alive. And then like someone walked over and was like, hey, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Like someone call somebody, you know? And then here I am.
Wow.
Yeah.
So were you hurt? Physically, I should say.
Well, no, I did have whiplash. That was like the brunt of it, and you know, I'm still kind of doing like physical therapy and stuff to be more mobile. It was really like pretty bad on my neck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
and then it was like my shoulder was hurting too, because it's like it's such the force of air going that fast slamming into your car. It's like I could not move my left arm for like a while.
If people haven't been in a car accident, which I've been in one really bad one, and people don't understand, like being hit with that force is wild. Like it's so it's almost hard to describe, because you feel so safe in your car, and then all of a sudden when you get hit like that, you just sort of realize like how fast everything is actually moving.
Yeah.
Ugh. But I imagine emotionally that must have been pretty traumatizing. That's why I said physically, are you okay?
Physically.
But like
I mean, physically, luckily, I'm like, well, I have all my body parts. Like when I was getting out of the car, I was like, did I lose like a limb? Like, am I okay? I was not sure if I had all of my arms and legs. But emotionally, I just was like, well, first of all, I was like, okay, is this karma for something? Like, did I do something wrong? But I'm like, well, I didn't die, so it must have not been that bad. And then I still don't know if I've fully processed that I almost died. You know what I mean? Like, because it hit my like front wheel of my car, where I'm pretty sure if it like hit like the door, like I probably would have died, or like, broken a ton of stuff, because the force was so huge. But yeah, I mean, people say like when you have a near-death experience, it like changes your life. I mean, I feel like I'm not reaching my potential. I'm like kind of still doing the same thing I was before. So I'm like, I wish it changed my life more. What are we doing, Irene? Come on.
You're like, we almost died and this is it. We're just doing Zoom shows. Come on.
I know. I was like kind of mad.
Brink of famous still. You got a year, 2 years later.
I know. And I'm like, come on, Irene. Like, you're supposed to be famous now. Or like quit and become like a scuba instructor or something. I don't know. Where you're like, oh, I had an epiphany. This is not what I want to do with my life.
Yeah. But unfortunately it was, because I feel like you'd be a very chill scuba instructor, actually.
I would be so chill.
You'd be so chill.
So chill. I'm not a great swimmer, so I can't do it.
It's interesting to me, like that one of your first thoughts was, this is karma for something I did. Like, because you seem like, I mean, you may have some major skeletons in your past or something, but you seem like you've led a pretty decent life, and I can't imagine you really having a whole lot of... Are you talking past life karma, this life karma?
No, I mean like this life karma. Well, the other thing was too, I was like, oh, it's because I left angry from the show. And I was like a little bit mad at my friend, not like actually mad. That's why I was like, oh, I'm just going to like go to this bar for like 30 minutes and go home. You know, it's like a thing where you're like, you mean, let's take a time out. Mm-hmm. Let's like not talk for like 2 hours and then we're good, you know? So then in my mind, I was like, oh, it was me not letting this go immediately, you know? And
you thought that the universe, that because you had been angry with someone, the universe had to punish you immediately. Yes. Immediately.
I guess so. I'm like, that's not sure. Like, maybe that's what it was. Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of an interesting response to like a car accident, which was not very clearly not your fault. You
100% not my fault. Yeah.
Yeah. You're immediately like, but is it my fault?
but did God do something? You know, because I'm not religious, but I'm like, karma is a bitch. So usually the next question, I kind of talk to people about their religious beliefs. So you don't necessarily believe, like you're not religious, but you believe that God is there and ready to fuck with you. I don't believe necessarily like God is there. I just believe there's like an energy that you put out in the universe and you get that same thing back, which I guess is karma. I don't exactly know what the dictionary definition of karma is. I just feel like if you're like super positive, you're always helping people, that's exactly what you get back. You know, if you have that mindset, things generally are good for you. Again, obviously there's are exceptions and stuff. But that is what I believe. And also, you know what happened? So I was mad at my friend and I was like a little bitchy to somebody that day too. That I'm like,
oh, two things.
It was like two people where I'm like, oh, it was the addition of a second person.
It was if you had just been bitchy to one person,
then it would have been
the
fine.
universe would have been, let's just slide. You get one freebie a day.
You get one. Yes.
Do you feel like you were correctly angry at that other person?
That's a good question. I mean, I don't think I was incorrect in being annoyed, but I should have let it go. Like it wasn't a big deal. You know what I mean?
Because I'm like doing the math on karma in Irene's universe here.
Yes.
Like, so you were bitchy to somebody and then you were mad at somebody, maybe annoyed with them.
Yes.
Because you're saying like you put positivity out there and I don't know. I just am sort of curious, like, does that leave you room? Does that make you feel afraid sort of to be imperfect, to fuck up? Like if you feel like there might be immediate karmic retribution or whatever you want to call it, consequences, does that kind of make you nervous to be a piece of shit ever?
Right. No, I mean, I don't think that makes me afraid where I'm like, oh, I can never make mistakes. But I do think other people can get away with being a shitty person more often than I can. Oh. Just like historically in my life, whenever I've done anything shitty, something bad has happened quite drastically immediately.
Oh, that's so interesting. Irene, I love you so much. I love that. I love that, like, the karma really, this circumstance is just for you. Like,
it's only for me. Yes. It's just, yes, God or whoever is like, if Irene is not doing her best, we will show her.
Yeah. And whereas like maybe the friend who was also annoyed with you that night, if they had gotten into a car accident that night, you would have been like, yeah, because you were a dick to me and you deserve to get in a car accident.
Yeah, I wouldn't even think about that at all, you know? No. Only for me. Yes.
Only for you. Oh man, that's so fascinating. What other things have happened? Like where you did something and then something, if you feel comfortable sharing anything.
I can't now because I'm like still getting over a 3-year period of my life where everything was terrible. But it was like pretty, I think, obvious from the universe where like I would do something or like it was just me not living my life the way I wanted it to be or like I think that a person should live their life. And I got my car broken into, got all my shit stolen. My ceiling collapsed in my apartment twice. Actually, maybe 3 times. Like the water, like, because there was a downstairs unit and an upstairs unit, and like the water came down from the bathtub or something. But it happened twice, almost 3 times. But the third time I like caught it. I got jumped twice.
Oh wow. That is a bad few years. That's a really bad few years.
That was like all in a span of like 2-ish years. I think there's more that happened, but you know.
Have you always felt like this, like since you were a kid, or did that feeling of like karma and you know kind of being mindful of that happen after that bad 3 years, or did you always feel like this even as a kid?
No, as a kid, I was like such a good kid that I didn't even think about karma. You know, it was like they teach you the golden rule, and like when you're in first grade, you're like do unto others what you know you would want them to do unto you or whatever. And I was like, yeah, for sure. And that's just what I did for my entire childhood. So I was like happy, like from 5 until like 10 or like maybe 12, like whatever the year before high school is. You know, I was like, yeah, life is great. Like nothing's ever wrong. You know, I'm sure a couple bad things happened, but in general, in my mind, it was kind of like when we were at Bumbershoot, I'm like, oh yeah, that was a great time. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything was great. And then I think, the karma thing just started happening later where I was like, oh, I don't know.
Were you raised religious at all?
No, I did go to church a few times as a kid, because some of my friends were Christian, and then I like would go with them when I was a kid. I never really liked it, so I didn't keep going. And then a girl I did not date, definitely we were basically dating. Her family was very religious, and I would go with her to church sometimes when I was in middle school. But I was never really into it.
And what are your parents like? Like, they're not religious. They're
I would say my mom is spiritual. She definitely believes there's God, but I don't think she's like Christian necessarily. You know, we never went to church as a family as a kid. And then I don't really talk to my dad that much, but he was never really very religious either. Yeah.
I just find that interesting because like you were such a good kid. And
so
then,
good.
You know, I don't know. It's just, yeah, so good. I was a good kid too until high school or until junior high. And then I started getting real wild. But before that, I was always like, you know, I was like the kid. I saw somebody, Natasha Muse today tweeted that who I love. She tweeted that her kid was mad about school and took that energy to sweep and clean the whole kitchen. And she was like, what lottery did I win? And I was like, that's not going to be a lottery later in life. That is the kind of kid I was. And I was a wild teenager.
That's funny.
But I sort of get that, like, I was that kind of kid that was just like, you know, like you said, this is kind of an odd question, but do you have ADHD?
I don't know. I was thinking recently, I was like, maybe I do have it. I didn't as a kid, and I never have been tested for it. I was always able to concentrate, but lately I'm just like, all the things.
I just read a thing that was talking about, you know, and because like you said, the bad memory thing, but also I was reading a thing. My son has ADHD and so does my partner. And I was reading this thing about how people with ADHD have this thing, it's like a hyperactive sense of justice. And they often report that as a kid, they like heard about the golden rule and then that was it for them for the rest of their life. They were like, oh, you just act like that and you're always really good to people. And I've noticed that with like neurodivergent people a lot of time that they don't really struggle a whole lot with like virtue or morality. They just are like, no, yeah, you just are decent people. And that when something bad happens, they sort of assign blame to themselves. Instead of like bad shit just happens, it's like, well, no, I must have done something, you know, to upset the balance.
Is this me finding out I'm ADHD on this podcast? Is that what's happening right now?
Mostly I just diagnose comedians with ADHD, and I'm always right. Is the thing because we all have it. So
that's so funny. I was reading. I think the bad memory is part of it, right? Because I think I was looking that up the other day for some reason, and it was like, you might be ADHD, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I didn't know this. Okay.
Yeah, it's, you know, I've learned so much about it. My one son is autistic, and then, you know, you kind of, the other two just sort of get lumped into like the neurotypical, you're not autistic category. And I didn't realize my youngest had ADHD until my partner, who has had ADHD since he was a child, has done unmedicated and medicated. There were a lot of things living with him that I was like, I didn't understand at first. I was like, what is happening? And then my son would be doing the same thing. And I was like, wait a minute, is this, I just always, you know, with your kid, you're just kind of like, what a weirdo. And you just kind of leave it at that. But when you see it in an adult and you're like, oh, this is like a forever behavior, you know, like the forgetfulness and stuff like that. And like the inability to finish tasks and stuff like that. It sort of became like, oh,
I just consider that procrastinating.
Yeah. Yeah, which is a big part of ADHD for sure.
Man, okay, I'm gonna have to look this up later. I got to self-diagnose on WebMD. Thanks a lot, Emma. I'm just kidding.
I'm sorry.
No,
you know me. I've got to figure it out. I love a diagnosis. I love it. Well, that is really so. Kind of tying into that. Did you feel different after that? You said you didn't, you kind of just felt like not accomplished, but did you find yourself thinking about like the world without Irene after that accident? Like, did you find yourself thinking about the afterlife or?
No, I didn't really think that much about the afterlife. I I did think that I should apologize to some people that I had not, where I'm like, oh, like if I had died and not apologized, it would have felt bad. But yeah, I didn't really think, again, I feel like it hasn't fully hit me that I could have died, which is, again, I know this logically, and I'm telling you this, where I'm like, 100% could have died or been paralyzed or whatever, but it hasn't hit me fully. So, yeah, I don't know what happens after we die, but I've always been like, hey, I know we're going to be alive for a certain amount of time. Let's just make the most of that. And I'm still trying to do that, but I'm having the hardest time, like, getting myself out of bed before noon,
Yeah. I know. This pandemic thing is like, I feel like every day around 5, I'm like, wait, what? Like, I just am like, oh, I was going to do those things. And I feel like I'm just like losing time almost. Like, yeah, I'll just sort of like sit and play online chess on my phone. And then
that's
be like,
good.
Where'd the day go?
That's like stimulating.
Yeah. I spend just as much time watching TikTok videos, so it's not.
I'm trying to quit my phone so hard, and it's the most difficult thing in the world.
It's so hard. I would literally only admit this to you and our podcast listeners because my phone popped up and it was like, congratulations, your phone time was down 15% to 6.5 hours. And I was like, fuck.
Me too. Yeah, but mine are like 8. Yeah, and I'm like, oh my God.
It was down. Yeah, it was like you were spending 7 or 8 hours a day on your phone. I was like, how? Am I even doing that?
I'm like, I don't think I'm doing that. Maybe it's like when you're returning a text, they also consider that. But I'm like, am I really touching my phone for 8 hours a day?
Yeah. And I had just gotten on the kids because I had looked over and seen my son's said 10 hours. And so we came up with this plan and we talked about like limiting social media and limiting games. And they watch a ton of YouTube, especially right now, they can't go anywhere. So it's like, of course they're doing all that. So I was like, okay, well, we need to like come up with a plan and do some limits. And then mine came up with 7.5 hours. And I was like, oh, fuck, I am a hypocrite. Like, oh no, it was so embarrassing. So, and I was off social media for 2 months, for all of January and February.
I think I remember seeing you.
Didn't make any difference. Yeah. Didn't make any difference. Still 6 hours. No, which is
what
horrifying.
Were you doing?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I play a lot of chess and I do Duolingo. And I guess
But those are good, I guess.
No, because guess what? I've been doing Spanish on Duolingo for 4 years, and I can say like 8 things. It does not. I have no retention at all. I finally switched to French because I was like, maybe it's the language. Like
maybe it's Duolingo.
Like I can't do it. I think so. I just think it's totally. It does not. My brain just doesn't. The whole time I'm in it, I'm like, bueno, and I'm like, oh yeah, I got this Spanish all the way, and then I'll be like. Like I'll even purposely listen to Spanish radio and stuff, and I'll be like, I understand like 1% of this. Like, it's not making a dent. It's not helping at all. But I wanted to start learning French because do you watch that show Call My Agent?
No, but I have heard of it.
It's fun, and there's a very hot lesbian couple in it, and so I was gonna watch a couple episodes, and now I'm deep in it. I'm all the way in because I'm obsessed.
Oh, and it's good. And it's good.
I like it. It's fun. It's fun. Okay. And it's like French. So it's like not ageist and not like sometimes they'll start delving into a sexist issue where you're like, oh, too bad. And then instead they're like, no, this is not okay. And you're like, oh, okay. It's French. So, but it made me realize that I like dirty talk, but like I don't like anybody to dirty talk to me really because people don't like if you say one, it's like the food or the movie. If you say one wrong thing, I'm out. I'm done. I'm like, oh, okay. That was like the littlest misstep with dirty talking me. But if it's in French, whatever.
You're like, I don't know what it is.
I don't know. You could say anything to me. You could be like, I'm going to put hot dogs in your bra. And I'm like, oh, like I think now all the porn I watch is French lesbian porn where they're talking to each other dirty and you can't tell what anybody's saying. And it's great. It's the only thing I like right now. So that's probably what I'm doing with my phone.
Don't tell your kids that.
No, I was like, mommy's phone time is way down. It's going really well.
Yeah, this has to go behind the paywall, Emma.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
I know. Oh, it's so
so
embarrassing.
Okay, but like, okay, speaking of porn though, I don't watch porn. I've dabbled. I'm not into it. It's a lot of fucking.
Yeah.
It's a lot of sex, and I want the foreplay, and they're kind of just immediately, even the quote unquote lesbian porn.
Yeah.
It's really not. So is that what you're watching though?
No, that's so funny, Irene, because I feel the same way. And luckily now I'm with a partner who, I don't know if it's the ADHD or that he's a Leo or what, but he is Dr. Foreplay. Like, it's wonderful. I've never been with a straight man who is like, because what I want is about 9 days of foreplay and then about 8.5 minutes of penetration. That's what I want. Thank you so much. That's where I'm at with that. And so I like that. Like, I don't know. I love like a long build, like
Exactly.
I love to like, I like the idea of just like sort of dragging something out for hours and for days. And so, yeah, I watch a lot of like, you're right. It's really hard to find porn with that. It's very...
Yeah.
And I do tend to like watch the beginning of the video and then sort of skip to the end. You're right. It's too much. I kind of feel the same way. Like, I don't watch sex. Really?
Yeah. I don't want to watch people just have sex. Like, who cares? No. It's all the same. It's like
literally all the same.
The stick goes in the hole or the two girls are touching parts, like whatever. Like, we get it. And you're making noises that are too much.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the foreplay and I like the dirty talk. I like my favorite porn is a French light BDSM where like you don't know what she's saying, but you can hear that she's like in French, like, you're so bad. And she's like, I am so bad. But I like it very mutual, like a very mutual, loving, agreeable French, where there's just a lot of like, you're naughty. No, you. Some wrestling maybe, like that's where I'm at with COVID porn personally. But I know what you mean, because I used to watch a lot of porn and I don't watch very much anymore just because of that. Because like I feel like COVID has changed me sexually a lot. Like, do you feel like everybody seems very horny? Like,
everyone is so horny, and I have not dated since my last relationship, which was over 3 years ago. And I'm very asexual if I'm not dating somebody. So I'm like just chilling.
Yeah.
And everyone is like, I need to like have sex with a person 4 months ago. And I'm like, I don't feel the same way. Like I'm just trying to get up an hour earlier. I don't know what the issue is. I'm like, ooh, is it bedtime? Like I'm just trying to better myself. And everyone is like, I have to fuck somebody now.
Yeah. Yeah, people are like, as soon as this vaccine hits, I'm making out with everybody. And I'm like, I am not there.
No,
I am not. Nobody's allowed to touch me.
Oh, yes. You want to make out with everybody? After this, supposedly the vaccine works and I'm like, I could still get sick if I make out with people.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel very skittish still. And I feel like my levels of intimacy have changed a lot where like, I mean, I see so few people a lot of times, which for me works pretty well. I haven't hated that part of quarantine, but yeah, but then even just like making small talk in my driveway with my neighbor, it feels like we're fucking. I'm like, this is a lot. I gotta go wash up. It's so much. I just feel so overwhelmed by like everything. Would you say have you heard the term demisexual before?
I've heard of it. I don't know what it means actually.
It's funny. I've always thought it's interesting. When we met.
Wait, before you do this, are you going to diagnose me again?
Oh my gosh, here we go. No, actually, I don't know if this, I just thought it was because when we met, we were kind of laughing because you were talking about how like you're essentially asexual unless you're in a relationship.
Yes.
I had been diagnosed as a sex addict, and I was like, it is an interesting, I have a lot of friends who are asexual, and I've actually had relationships, really successful, loving relationships with people who are asexual, which you wouldn't think would work. But I think that there's like this almost relief from both people when you have an asexual person and somebody who's hypersexual. And a demisexual person is a person who like really isn't sexual unless they're like in love with somebody, or they're like, it's like for one person or maybe multiple people throughout their life. But it's like very specific. It's like walking around, you're not like, oh, look at that ass, look at those boobs. It's like, no, if you're with somebody, and my partner is very like that. And I find like, it's such a relief to me to be around people like that. I wish everybody was demisexual in some ways, just because it's like when you're so used to being objectified and then you're not, it's just like, oh God, that's like butter, you know?
Okay, so you did diagnose me yet again. Apparently, I'm demisexual.
I'm asking if you are.
That is exactly how I feel. Like I only want to have sex with somebody if like I really like them or like I'm in love with them. You know, otherwise I do not have that urge whatsoever. You know, I can see like, you know, somebody walking down the street where I'm like, that's objectively an attractive person. I do not want to have sex with this person. Like, I don't want them to touch me. Like it's not happening. And I like, there was this girl in college that, I mean, long story short, we like made out and then objectively she's like hot. Right. And then, you know, she was really into me and I just was like, I can't, like we made out and I was like, there's never again. Let's just not, I can't do it. You know, like there's no urge for me to like have sex with you. Like it almost repulses me in a way.
Yeah, I've sort of realized about myself in the last year that I actually think I am more like that than I realized. That even though I'm the kind of person who had, you know, historically has always been really promiscuous and has had sex with a lot of people, when I got together with Alex, I sort of had this, first of all, this realization that I think maybe he's the only man, like a cis man, I've actually been physically attracted to. Like I was like, oh, and it was like, I was like, I'm crazy about him physically in a way that I haven't felt about a man before. I have had sex with a lot of men, but and a lot of different shaped, you know, and sized men and men that look very different. And I sort of have been like, oh, is that because I always thought I was attracted to everyone. I've always kind of been like, oh, I must be pansexual because I'm just like attracted to everybody. And then this last year I've been like, or is it nobody? Has it actually been nobody this whole time? And that's why I think I kept having sex with people sort of to be like I like the physical part of that. But a lot of times it was like, I don't know, like the interchangeability between people that now post COVID, I feel like, and post like now that I'm in like an actual intimate relationship and I've had that, I'm like, oh, my bar has changed for sex, you know, like I just feel like I like that now. Like I like the idea of only having sex with people that you're intimate with, you know, and everybody's like, I'm going to get out there and fuck everybody on the dance floor. And I'm like, I'm going to get really close to someone over the course of 2 to 3 years and form an incredibly intense bond. And then eventually I'm going to compliment their ankles. And
Emma, you're describing the lesbian experience.
See, I just didn't get to have enough of that, I guess.
I mean, that's literally what lesbians do. Like, it's just so much angst. It's a lot of like, let me just become best friends with this girl that I have a crush on, but it's okay that we're also friends. And then I will compliment her ankles, or just like, we're like, that's a nice shirt. And what you really mean is like, I want to date you. But you can't say that. Can't say that.
I think that's probably true, because I think that, you know, I've always had a lot of close female friends, and but then I had female lovers who were, I don't want to say one night stands, because they weren't. We were close, but like there was always kind of a divide. I mean, I just think I probably never was intimate before Alex ever with anybody. So like I just wasn't capable of it, and now I'm like
emotionally.
Yeah, like emotionally. I think I always had like a lot of distance between me and everybody. So now it's like, now that I'm more capable of it, it's interesting because, yeah, I'm 100% sure if Alex croaked tomorrow, last man I'm ever dating. I'm fully sure of that. And it is because like I part of what I adore about women is that, God, it is such a nice space to not feel pressured, you know, to not feel rushed. And typically with men during sex, you do feel really, really rushed. Not even just sex. I think there are a lot of ways around men that I'm like, I'm trying to talk fast, like.
Yes.
So I guess you just diagnosed me as almost lesbian.
Oh, the one that got away.
So close.
We almost got her, but next time we'll have to get Emma.
Heartbreaking to my family because I was raised by a big group of lesbians who are always just
really?
Yeah.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, my aunt and her wife lived with us when we were kids, and our backyard was always full of a bunch of commune lesbians. My aunts were part of like a hippie commune thing that we were always going up to they had this big house together. We were always going up there, and all the lesbians were always like, yeah, you're still dating men? You're still doing that? Oh, okay. It's a phase. She's going through a phase. And then when I married a man, everybody was like, well, that's fine. And nobody was disappointed, I'm sure.
Yeah, nobody was happy.
Yeah.
They're like, I mean, if you must.
They did the Irene. I wouldn't say I'm happy for her.
But this is okay.
It's fine. But I'm going to ask you my third question, and the third question I always is a question that is just for you, and it's just something that I just want to know, and it's just totally tailored to you. And mine for you is, do you know how amazing you are, Irene Tu? Do you?
I do not.
Because. It's funny because you are such a confident person. And everybody I know would describe you, I think, as being like very confident, very sure of yourself. But talking to you about the karma stuff, I'm like, I think maybe you don't understand that you're like the most amazing person. Like you're genuine and you're kind and you're really like decent to people. It's so rare in our industry to like, always anybody you talk to be like, yeah, that person was good to me. Like that person doesn't have like a trail of damage behind them. In our industry, it's pretty rare. And you're hilarious and you're funny and you have a good moral compass. And I just wonder why you don't know you're so amazing.
Oh, that's so nice of you, Emma. I mean, I just feel like everybody is that, but everyone's on a journey, And I feel like I've been the same person my entire life, minus a couple of years of my life where, again, that I don't talk about right now. And I feel like I get the most joy out of being the best that I can and just making other people happy or like reaching their potential. Like that brings me joy,
That's beautiful.
Yeah. 'Cause I'm like, why not?
Yeah.
Like what's the point of drama and like gossiping and talking shit? Like it doesn't make you feel good. It doesn't make them feel good. And it's going to like come back to you.
Yeah. You're such a forgiving person. And I feel like I've been really wrestling with that during COVID because there's some relationships that it's hard for me as a person who's been bad with boundaries sometimes to tell if I'm drawing a boundary or being unforgiving, Yes,
that is true. Yeah, I had something recently where I still dealing with it where someone is like mad at me, but I don't think I did anything wrong. And I'm like, maybe we should just not be friends. And I don't exactly know how to do that, like how do you set a boundary without, coming off as a bitch?
Yeah, it's my MO in that situation is to avoid the person.
Oh, that's what I'm doing right now. Currently, yeah, I'm avoiding.
Yeah. And I'm like, I feel like I'm old enough I should have a better system for that. But like you said, like a lot of times I'm like, there'll be a situation where I'm like, well, do I need to be like, hey, we're not buds because of this, or is it okay to just kind of like filter out of somebody's life? And
I think it should be okay to like just like casually dip out of the relationship or conversation unless they confront you like, hey, why are you not talking to me? And then I think you can have a conversation about it. But I don't think you need to go up to someone and be like, hey, this is why I hate you. Because that just makes them feel bad.
Yeah. And I also, there have been people who like, what do you do? Now this has become an advice. Maybe you should have an advice podcast. I'm always trying to get you to have a podcast.
I know, you really are.
For you. It's because I think you're brilliant.
Thank you. You know what I will tell you about me though is I'm definitely like a dip my toe in the water type of person. Even with doing comedy, like I started when I was technically 16, didn't really do it till I was like 22, 23, Mm-hmm. So I'm always like, oh, I have an idea for a podcast. And then I never like fully do it because I'm like, I don't know if it's going to be good.
You doubt it.
Yeah.
Well, I think any podcast you did would be good. And I would love an advice podcast from you because I think because of that like moral compass thing we were talking about, like it's kind of like with the food thing. I feel like you would give very honest advice. And if somebody was like, hey, should I talk to this person about this? You'd be like, no. And that would be it. It wouldn't be a bunch of, well, I don't know. You just sort of, like you said, you've been the same person and you know yourself really well.
Yes, I do know myself really well. And I do feel like I actually would be a very good therapist, but no one would want to come to me because I am so honest and not forgiving in that way where if like you bring in your bullshit, I would call you out on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that you'd be an amazing therapist. And I think a lot of people need therapists like that. My therapist was real softball with me. And
that's
took me
how
like
every therapist is now.
Yeah.
I think I don't go to therapy. I just work on myself, which a lot of my friends in therapy don't do. They're like, I went to therapy. I'm like, but did you do what your therapist said? And they're like, no. And I'm like, no. Okay.
No, I just pay her to ignore her.
Yeah, you're like, oh, you just showed up and she said some stuff and then you were like, I'll see you in 3 days, but you didn't do anything? Okay.
Yeah.
That's like when I go to physical therapy and he's like, hey, did you do the exercises at home? And I'm like, nope, I did not. And that's why I'm still lifting the same amount of weights as last week. Yeah. Gotten nowhere. I forgot what I was saying. Oh, but yes, I just feel like I would be a good therapist, but just too honest. And people can't take it nowadays, Mm-hmm. They're like, I wouldn't like yell at you. I'm not gonna be like Terry Crews. Like, I don't think that's helpful in therapy.
No.
But at the same time, I feel like a lot of therapists now are really softballing it, where it's like, hey, it's okay. Like, you made a mistake. You keep making the same mistake. It's okay. And it's like, well, at some point, it's a little bit not okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like my therapist was so scared of me just quitting that he was just like, all right, you're doing great, doing better every week. And I mean, I guess he was right. It took me like 6 years to finally, I literally went in and was like, I don't want to talk about my childhood. When I first started, I was like, I'm not talking about my childhood. I'm just here to figure out like this one issue. I don't want to talk about anything. And it took him 6 years for me to be like, yeah, whatever. So I think I was like molested or whatever. It's fine. And he was like, oh, we've done it. Finally.
Like, there we go. It only took 6 years. We got it.
We did it. We did it, everybody. So maybe some people need someone to ease them.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I do think some people probably need someone to ease them. But, not every method works for everybody. Like maybe if you had a different therapist, they would have been able to get to the root of the issue faster. Gotten you to share,
That's true, because the therapist I had while I was at treatment, he was so no bullshit. And like my first day there, he was like, why are you such a people pleaser? And I was like, what? And he was like, everything you're telling me is because you're trying to get my approval. So I'm just wondering why you're being such a people pleaser. Like, why are you trying to run this by me as though you need me to agree with it or approve of it? Like, why aren't you just telling me? And he was like, I think that you're really used to forming things into a narrative. And I was like, okay.
You're like, oh, don't read me like that. Oh my God.
Have you seen my special? Is that why you're saying that? Like, I was like, oh, and yeah, I was only there for 10 days, but it was, he took me all apart for sure.
Oh, so that worked for you.
Yeah. In the end. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I think, different people need different like methods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's one of my favorite things about you is just how no bullshit you are. Like, we were at lunch at Bumbershoot and we were sitting there and I don't even remember who we were sitting with. And somebody was like talking about something and kind of like you said, gossiping and kind of talking shit. And you were like, we don't need to do this. And I was like, I love this person.
I literally don't remember any of this happening. Wow, good on me.
Yeah, you were. I thought it was great because it was the kind of thing we all engage in. Comedians are the most gossipy people in the world. I'm certainly as guilty of it as any other comedian, and I liked that you were just like, no, nope, we don't need to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll engage in a gossip if I don't think it's mean or if it's just like factual, or if it's about like a few people I actually really don't like because I think they're bad people or whatever. But yeah, generally I try not to gossip. I just think gossiping's so toxic.
I think that there's like a healthy way to gossip and an unhealthy way to gossip.
Yes,
I think there's like a necessary gossip that is like healing to do with your friends, to have like especially if you've been gaslight by a community.
Sure.
You know, if you've been like fighting against, you know, in comedy as a woman, you know, you're a lot of times like, no, I think that this is wrong. And to get to do that with other women comedians where you're like, guess who sucks? And everybody's like, confirmed.
You're like, yeah, that guy actually does suck. Yeah.
Yeah. It feels kind of nice. But there's certainly like a negative, not good way to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I think if the point of you gossiping is to like tear them down without a reason, that's not great. But yeah, if you're like, that guy only books his friends and he's kind of creepy, like I think that's fine to gossip about. It's not even gossiping, that's just a public service.
It's just truth. And do you have a comedy nemesis?
I would like to think that I have beef with almost nobody, but I have had like falling out. I've had fallings out. I don't know how you pluralize that. Yeah. I've had a falling out with a couple people. Not like really bad where I'm like, I would never talk to this person again. It just was like, oh, like it didn't really work out. We were working together and that's like not the right fit. And I wish nobody ill will. But there are a few people where I'm like, I'm not really friends with that person anymore, you know?
Yeah. No nemesis. You have comedy.
No. I would not say nemesis.
Thank yous.
Yes. That's a great way to put it. I'd be like, yeah, they don't need to sit with me at my table at my wedding. You know what I mean? Like that.
You're going to get in a car accident for saying that. But,
yeah. I don't know why I said all those words together because I don't even know if I want to get married. So.
You don't think so?
I did not traditionally as a kid. Now I'm like, I mean, well, gay marriage also was not legal. Now I'm like, I mean, I guess it would be fine. But now I'm not even actively dating. You know, I'm like, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it's fine.
Yeah.
So I don't know why I said marriage out loud. Let's cut that out of the podcast.
Boy, I'll write it down. All right.
No, it's fine. You can leave it. I don't care. I don't care.
Well, where can people find you, Irene? Where can they find you? What can they buy?
Well, you can't really buy anything. I don't have merch. I should make merch. I don't know. I don't know if I believe in merch. Because I don't think people want my face on a shirt. I don't know.
I would 100% wear a shirt with your face on it.
Okay. Well, fair enough. Okay. Maybe I'll make a shirt. But no, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Irene_Tu. That's TU. It's my last name. I don't really use TikTok, although I'm supposed to like start. Been saying I'm going to put things on TikTok. Hasn't happened yet. And then, you know, Facebook's for old people. So I don't really update Facebook. I'm sorry. Not to be ageist. I'm just saying I just don't use it really.
Yeah, I don't either. I deleted my personal account and then it won't delete my fan page for some reason. So
really?
I still which sucks because I forget that it's there until I get a very creepy message from an older man.
Oh, see?
Just every so often. Yep. Who are just like, saw your videos, wanted to compliment your hair in a weird way, you know? So, or hate mail. I do get a little bit of hate mail there, which is nice.
I don't know why people give you hate mail. You're so great, Emma.
Well, I live in a really conservative state. So occasionally people find me that way and get mad that I live here. So, but you're so wonderful. And I just really love talking to you. And I really miss seeing you do comedy. And you're one of the people after COVID, I can't wait to come down. And that's my version of making out, is watching you do comedy. Is I want to come down and watch you do comedy and eat a sandwich with you.
I would love that. Please let me know when you come down. You know, I was supposed to come to Boise because you hooked me up with that gig.
I know.
It's probably never going to happen now.
No, it will. After all this, I'm going to get my monthly back going. And
okay, good.
You're coming up. You're going to come up. We'll go to the hot springs.
Ooh, hot springs.
Yeah. I always take comedians to the hot springs when they're up here. And it's funny because if people are from the city, they are just like Valerie Tossi, when I took her, we were like driving out into the woods and she was like, are we safe? What's happening? Or what are we doing? Are we going to be okay?
Yeah. Are you going to murder me?
I was like, we're perfectly fine. We were on a dirt road and she was like, okay. I was like, we're fine. This is normal hillbilly shit. Don't worry about it. But she actually ended up, and then I took her to this beautiful hot pool and she was amazed. So you'll love it. And it'll be so fun. Stick around so I can get your stuff after the show. But thanks everybody for watching. This has been Irene Tu. She's magical, and please follow her on everything. Thanks for listening to What's Next. You can subscribe on the Patreon for the full episode, patreon.com/Emma Arnold. And of course, we do the live streams on the YouTube every so often. So subscribe to that too. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.